we cannot judge because there were people who died already, didn't know about this light. But for now, those who have since 1868. And so how many years? So the thing is, I think there are more people now who are more health conscious in the churches. Now, another identifying marks of a remnant, they are not Laodiceans. Remember, the church today are so proud to quote 14 verse 1. Okay, God's remnant people are not Laodiceans, but they are Philadelphia. 14 verse 1, and I look, and lo, a lamb stood at Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his father's name written in their foreheads. Now, in Revelation 1, 10 and 11, there's 7 churches being mentioned there by John. Okay, 7 churches. You have the Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamos, Thyatira, Sardis, Philadelphia, and Laodicea. Okay, now according to Ellen White, in Acts of Apostles 5:5, these are actually conditions of the churches, of the church in different periods of the Christian era. The number 7 indicates complete and is symbolic of the fact that the messages extend to the end time, while symbols used reveal the condition of the church at different periods in the history of the world. Okay, now which one of the 7 churches has the only Philadelphia? Here in Revelation 3, 7 to 12, and the church of this thing saith he, holy, he that is from my God, and I will write upon him my new name. So only the church. Okay, now why the church of Laodiceans cannot be the remnant? Because the Laodiceans, according to Revelation 3, 14 to 17, which we are familiar with this text, it says here, and to the angel of the church of Laodiceans, write, this thing saith the Amen, and the faithful and true witness, the beginning of the creation of God. I know thy works, that thou art neither cold nor hot. I would thou wert cold or hot. So then, because thou art lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. Laodiceans cannot be remnant. They will be spewed out from Christ. Okay? Why? Because they are lukewarm. Okay? And also, it says here, because thou sayest, I am rich and increased with goods, and have need of nothing, and knowest not that thou art wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked. Okay? See, Laodiceans, if the church becomes Laodiceans, according to 19 MR 176, if the church of God becomes lukewarm, it does not stand in favor with God anymore than do the churches that are represented as having fallen and become the habitations of devils and the hold of every foul spirit and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. Those who have had opportunities to hear and receive the truth and who have united with the Seventh-day Adventist Church, calling themselves the commandment-keeping people of God, and yet possess no more vitality and consecration to God than do the nominal churches, will receive the plagues of God just as verily as the churches who oppose the law of God. Only those that are sanctified through the truth will compose the royal family in the heavenly mansion and keep his commandments. See, Laodiceans are being told, okay, to buy of him gold, tried with fire. Why? Because God wants them also to be saved. But what it says here, the only way to be able to become part of this Philadelphian, it says here, Christ offers to sell this precious treasure to man. Buy of me gold, tried in the fire. The dead, heartless performance of duty does not make us Christians. See, heartless performance of duty does not make us Christians. We must get out of a lukewarm condition and experience a true conversion, or we shall fail of heaven. So the only way to be able to be saved is to get out of that lukewarm condition. No, once you get out, you are no longer Laodicean. You are in another condition. Yes. Like the only 2 conditions being mentioned here is Philadelphian, because they represent. They have the. This is the only condition that are being mentioned here, that they have the name written in their foreheads. So, and also Laodicean, the state of the church represented by the foolish virgins, is also spoken of as the Laodicean state. So, Laodiceans are foolish virgins, okay? And also here in our high calling, 348, paragraph 4, it says here, half-hearted Christians are worse than infidels, astray. The infidel shows his color, okay? Colors. The lukewarm Christians deceive both parties. He is neither a good worldling nor a good Christian. Satan uses him to do a work that no one else can do. So Laodiceans cannot make it because they are Satan's instruments, okay? And they are also called tares. Upward Luke 35, it says here, we have abundant evidence that tares grow with the wheat in the church of God. There are sincere Christians in the church, and there are also lukewarm Christians. These have opportunity to know the truth. The word of God is presented to them. They come to the banquet as Judas came to the Passover, but like Judas, they do not eat the word of life. So there's two kinds of Christians in the churches, okay? But will that good Christians remain there? There's going to be a time that God is going to pull them out, because they cannot stay there, okay? They're not supposed to be there. Now, what makes them Laodiceans, though? What makes God's people Laodiceans? Christ are no longer separate and peculiar people. The line of demarcation is indistinct. The people are subordinating themselves to the world, to its practices, its customs, its selfishness. The church has gone over to the world in transgression of the law, when the world should have come over to the church in obedience to the law. Daily, the church is being converted to the world. That's it. They are just converted to the world. And also here in volume 8, 118, it says here, it is a solemn and terrible truth that many who have been zealous in proclaiming the third angel's message are now becoming listless and indifferent. The line of demarcation between worldlings and many professed Christians is almost indistinguishable, conforming to the world, to its practices, its customs, its selfishness. Instead of leading the world to render obedience to God's law, the church is uniting more and more closely with the world in transgression. Daily, the church is becoming converted to the world. Okay. Now, if the church becomes lukewarm, you think the presence of Christ is in their midst? It says here in 1 NL 99, paragraph 4, the church is in the Laodicean state. The presence of God is not in her midst. So, in a Laodicean, the presence of Christ is not there. That's why Revelation 3:20, it says there, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If Christ is knocking, that means, is he inside? No, he's outside. That's the reason why he's knocking. Okay? So in a Laodicean, the presence of God is not there. Okay? So whose presence is?
They're worshiping.
That's right. That's why there was a saying that says, I mean, last week somebody called it, says people are in the Philippines, people are,
They really believe that God is there when they worship.
yeah, they believe it, that God is there, but it says here there's no presence there. So somebody called it, says the churches, they go out and do things that are not supposed to be done on Sabbath. Why? Because the presence is not there. They're not actually being told. The pastor who's in charge maybe not telling the truth. Now, can the Laodiceans make it to heaven? It says here, the solemn question should come home to every member of our churches. How are we standing before God as the professed followers of Jesus Christ? Is our light shining forth to the world in clear, steady rays? Have we, as a people solemnly dedicated to God, preserved our union with the source of all light? Are not the symptoms of decay and declension painfully visible? Facts concerning the real condition of the professed people of God speak more loudly than their profession, and make it evident that some power has cut the cable that anchored them to the eternal rock. Who is that rock? It's Christ. And that they are drifting away to sea without chart or compass. That means the cable is cut, and that they're drifting away to sea without a compass. And according to those who boast of their light and yet fail to walk in it, this is also could apply to us as well. Especially when we have all the light, and if we are not walking in this light, I say unto you, it shall be more tolerable for Tyre and Sidon the day of judgment than for you. And thou, Capernaum, 70 Adventists who have had great light, which art exalted into. That's why it says here in 7 BC 970, the great mass of professing Christians will meet with bitter disappointment in the day of God. Why? Because they have not upon their foreheads the seal of the living God. Why they don't have the seal? Lukewarm and half-hearted, they dishonor. We have to get out of that lukewarm condition. Otherwise, we won't make it there. We will not be part of God's remnant people. Now, God's remnant people will sing That's the only company that will sing the song of Moses. It says here, Revelation 14, verse 3, they sang as it were a new song before the throne and before the four beasts. And the elders, and no man could learn that song but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth. Now, why only the 144,000 will sing the song of Moses? Why? Because this is the only company that will experience the time of trouble, that will actually be victorious during the time of trouble, during the time of Jacob's trouble. The three, and they sing a new song before the throne, a song which no man can learn save the 144,000. It is the song of Moses and the Lamb, a song of deliverance. None but the 144,000 can learn the song, for it is the song of their experience. Now, what kind of experience they will have? An experience such as no other company have ever had. These are they which came out of great tribulation. They have passed through the time of trouble such as never was since there was a nation. They have endured the anguish of the time of Jacob's trouble through the final outpouring of God's judgment. But they have been delivered, for they have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. It's a remnant only. It's only few. Why? Because we really need to strive. We need to strive. We cannot just relax and take for granted. That's why here in another identifying marks of the remnant to any denomination. It says here in Revelation 14, verse 4, these are they which were not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are they which follow the Lamb among men, being the first fruits unto God and unto the Lamb. And in their mouth was found no guile, for they are without fault before the throne of God. That means they're not connected to any churches, but they are only connected to Christ. See, God's church is not a cathedral, according to Upper Luke 3:15. God is a church. It is not the great cathedral, neither is it the national establishment, neither is it the various denomination. Institution is not a denomination, but God has people there. I'm not trying to judge that there is no more God's people there. God still has people, but before He closes this probation, He's going to call them. Early writings 261 is very clear, and also Revelation 18, 4 and 5. Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers. And alcohol will be here in the churches. Okay, so it says here, God's church is not a denomination. It is the people who love God and keep His commandments. Where two or three are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them. Matthew 18:20. Where Christ is His church, for the presence of the high and holy one who inhabited eternity can alone constitute a church. So only few. After of the few. When Christ came to this world, did He actually enlisted Himself to be part of the Jewish church? No. Leadership was so corrupt. That's why Christ could not actually work with them. Okay? So if we want to be part of God's remnant, what does the word say? This is my last quote. Strive with all the power that God has given us to be among the 144,000. Because this is the only group, the remnant, which will make it living alive, that we will strive, that we will be part of this group. Because this is the only group that will be taken to heaven without experiencing death. Is my prayer. So